Hey everybody, it's Michael here. I wanted to give a little bit of a response via video to some questions that have been coming up in our Facebook group. Questions about why am I not feeling the clearings you're doing? This is a question I get from time to time. I think the majority of people who do the clearing work that I facilitate feel something, but I do get people who don't notice anything, at least initially, and the question might be, why is that? So I wanted to kind of answer in this broader video format. I want to speak specifically to Elena's longer question and post around this issue as well, because you bring up some really good points that I want to share some insights on from my perspective with everybody here. So I want to first say that there isn't necessarily a right or wrong way to receive these clearings, or I would probably expand that out to any kind of energy work. There's not a one size fits all, and there's not just one way that people will interpret or feel even any one particular clearing. So I do these group clearings, and they're put out there for a whole group dynamic, and every individual within that group may sense the work in a different way. So right there, there's a lot of individuality. Why do they sense it in an individual way or in a variable way from each other? It's just because each of us is on a unique path. Each of us has a unique soul history, and we will intersect with particular methods, modalities, even specific clearing sessions in different ways. It's an interesting example to give for a group clearing. Why would people have such different responses to it? It's because of that particular reason. We have a unique karmic story. We're not all exactly intersecting with a spiritual clearing in the same way. And also, when a group clearing is done, we're working on different issues for different people. Because of that unique karmic story, the same exact things are not necessarily being cleared for everyone involved with the clearing. So that's a first point I want to say. Secondly, we also have our own unique ways of interpreting or sensing clearing work, or more broadly, energy work, based on our unique perception, based on our unique evolution. When I was first encountering kind of group energy work, or someone might guide us, a group of people that I was in a meditation, for instance, or a guided visualization that would involve energetic activations. This was what I was into when I first started getting involved with healing work. I would really not have any noticeable or discernible experiences to speak of initially. I'm not saying, looking back now, that there was nothing happening. I'm just saying that I didn't know how to sense it. I didn't know how to feel it. For me, that was because I was largely blocked. I think a lot of us get onto this spiritual journey and we have tremendous amounts of blocks, including blocks to our own intuition and our own insights. And it can be difficult to kind of get out of that almost like paper bag being around our body. We can't really see around us. We don't know what our guidance is or our intuition is as clearly. That was certainly true for me, even more so at the beginning stages of my more conscious spiritual path in this life. But I also find that over time, insights and clarity get additionally sharper for me over time as I continue to be in spiritual practice or be in clearing work myself. So I want to come back also to perhaps how does my work differ from, or how is it similar to, other forms of energy work? It's a question that comes up a lot. Many people know the term, Elena, as you said, the term Reiki. They've had experiences with Reiki work in person, perhaps Reiki work at a distance. They have a sort of a good grasp. Reiki is a very popular initial method that certainly was true for me as well. When I first started to get into energy work, it's something that was very available, very common throughout the world. Reiki does usually define a specific energetic modality, though the term itself just means divinely guided life force energy. And so in a sense, all energy work is Reiki. All counseling work is Reiki. All meditation is Reiki in a larger sense. So we may have this experience of Reiki, and I would say that Reiki, this is a very broad, sweeping generalization, but Reiki tends to focus more on the sensation of the physical body and perhaps the immediate aura. Aura being the non-physical part of ourself that is around our physical body and interpenetrates the physical body. It's kind of like this egg that is around us and also connects to what you probably all know of as the chakra system. So that's sort of the immediate aura, the immediate energy field. Reiki tends to focus there. It tends to be a little bit more palpable for people, though it does have lots of ramifications depending on the practitioner, depending on the client. It has a lot of impact at different levels. That's where its focus tends to be. If someone, for instance, the first Reiki sessions I ever had, someone was placing their hands directly on my physical body over the course of an hour. And I had, even though I was really blocked at that point, I could really, really feel and sense the Reiki energy. It really was very palpable. The clearing work I focus on now, it's not to say that it won't have an impact on your chakras or your immediate aura or your physical body even, but it tends to focus more on what I call karma, which is the larger energy within your soul's history from this lifetime, from your soul's history, like your past lifetimes, but also from your ancestry, the stuff that you've inherited. It tends to focus on that larger or broader, or you could even say deeper, the deeper energetic issues that may be causing the problems in your immediate life today. I call that karma, but it could also be termed subconscious in the largest sense of that word, from other lifetimes, from your ancestry, and from this lifetime. So in a sense, that energy that we're working with in the clearings starts at a more expanded but also at a more deep level than other types of energy work. It's more at the causative level of things. We're getting to the cause, we're getting to the root. Sometimes when people do, I'm going to contrast that with if someone were to do just a chakra clearing or just an aura clearing. Say they're even going to use sage. They're going to burn some sage around them, or they're going to use a guided visualization. They're going to visualize white light. They're going to visualize maybe certain colors. They're going to do some chakra clearing. They're going to do some qigong work. That work tends to affect the more immediate level of the energy. That's the aura, you could call it. Whereas the clearing work that we're doing in the guided work that I'm doing, the group clearings, for instance, that tends to get more to the causative energy. It's a little bit more remote from the present moment. Now, that being said, depending on where someone's at on their particular journey at the time, a lot of factors, they may feel that work, even though that work seems a little bit more distant. Say there was a block that was created 200 lifetimes ago for you. That energy is affecting you now, but the situation and the way that energy was created and the reason the energy was created is much more remote to your present moment. If you got really upset from something, got really angry by something, feel something much more immediate in the last few days, that's much closer to the surface in this moment. You might feel that more strongly. So depending on someone's connection to their sense of how their karmic energy, their past life energy, for instance, their ancestral energy is affecting them right now, that may be one major factor as to how viscerally they feel the clearing work. So think of it this way. We have the physical body. Right outside the physical body, and within it, you might have the etheric body, the emotional body, the stuff that changes with our emotions from day to day. Right outside that, you might have the mental body. Those are our thoughts, the thoughts we can often pick up from the collective. And beyond that, we have the spiritual bodies or the karmic bodies. So the stuff that we're doing in these clearings from my website, those are starting at the level further and remote away from our day-to-day life. They're starting in the spiritual dimensions, the karmic dimensions of our body. I just want to point that out as a distinction between very generally where Reiki begins and where my work tends to begin. Okay, so I hope that point is kind of clear. So in a sense, one of the reasons why there's differences in perception not beyond just the fact that we're all unique. We all have unique soul histories. And so we're not all working with exactly the same energy. If I do a clearing, we're not all going to connect to that clearing in exactly the same sense because of that uniqueness. In a sense, in my work, if we're starting with the past life history, in order for a person to really sense or to feel that work right in this moment, they have to be able to allow that work to penetrate through their more day-to-day or more present lifetime layers of the energy field. So what I just said, physical body, etheric, emotional, mental, these levels of the aura are more of our day-to-day operating system. Yes, they're affected by past life energies or affected by ancestral energies, but they have more to do with what we're thinking, what we're feeling, even what we're eating, how we're treating our physical body, how we're breathing, what our stress levels are like day to day. Sometimes when the karma clearing begins to happen, there's so much stuff that maybe have been built up in the more immediate levels of the energy field that we cannot let that energy through to affect us as strongly, even though we may really want to be doing that. Over the course of a number of years of working with these kinds of questions, what I have begun to ask, I can ask questions for people through dowsing about to what degree are they allowing the clearing work to come into their more immediate energy field. And this is an interesting question. This is not something that we can control by willpower. It's not something we can control just by, I really am tired and sick of this issue in my life and I really want to fix it. Oftentimes, the more we are trying through either force or willpower to change something in our life, the more we actually remain in resistance and are not really allowing the power of our spiritual nature to transform that thing. So, one of the reasons why it may be difficult to feel a clearing is because our emotional body may not be ready to receive it yet. This is what I have come down to and what I've asked hundreds of times over the years when people tell me that they're not really feeling or sensing a clearing. I asked to what degree, based on a percentage of 0 to 100%, to what degree is someone's emotional body receiving the clearing? What I have found over time is that if the emotional body is receiving less than 15%, between 10 and 20%, but usually about 15% of the clearing, the person will report back to me that they're not noticing anything with the clearing. In other words, the emotional body isn't ready to receive the clearing. And so in terms of a person's feeling state, they may not notice it. So just taking that in for a second. You might ask, well, isn't it my job to clear the emotional body for people? Isn't that what the clearing is supposed to be doing? So that I would ostensibly sort of be making people feel the clearing. And my answer to that is absolutely no. As a matter of fact, in whatever modality it is, nobody else can really make anyone else heal or feel a particular clearing. Some methods, as I mentioned a moment ago, like Reiki, work more directly on the physical body, on the energy body, may create an easier space for some people to open at that level and to really let the energy come in. Sometimes what happens in the karma clearing works is, especially if it's around a really challenging issue, a pressing issue that someone's having, is that their emotional body may be in a form of resistance or disallowing of the work to really penetrate at that level. It doesn't mean that the clearing work is not having an effect. I want to say that just because someone may not feel a clearing doesn't mean that the work isn't having an immediate effect. It's just not as noticeable to that person at that time. What I have found is that the karmic bodies, where our past life karma is held, we might call that the spiritual levels of our energy field. Those levels tend to be much easier to clear because we have less present moment emotional congestion around those issues. The issues happened often way long time ago in past lives or in our ancestry. And so they're affecting us now, but they're not as, remember I said earlier that our denser layers of our energy are more about our day-to-day operating system, not necessarily about directly connected to our past lives. So the question, let me summarize again what I'm saying here, is that the emotional body in particular, I have found to be kind of the transfer part of our being. That when it's really open and clear, it allows the impact of past life clearing work and ancestral clearing work to be much more noticeable. When it's not clear, the karma clearing work that I facilitate is still having an impact, but it may not be as noticeable for a person because there is conscious work that they yet need to do in order to have the emotional body be receptive. The conscious work is going to depend on a person's background. Sometimes there is trauma involved in the story. Childhood trauma, it might have been in utero for them. They may have lost someone, which is a trauma. They may have lost a parent, a child, a friend. They may have been hurt emotionally, sexually, physically. There may be a kind of a cultural trauma that the person grew up in. There may be something that their adult mind even doesn't look at as trauma. They may have thought, oh, that wasn't a big deal. My adult mind thinks that that thing that happened when I was 5 or 10 or 15 wasn't a big deal, but it really is a big deal in terms of the person's psyche. And what can be happening is that the emotional body doesn't yet feel safe to be able to really resolve, to release that issue. And what happens, the net effect of that is the emotional body contracts as a method of protection. So what I have found by checking a few people who were reporting to me this issue of, I'm not sure if I'm feeling the clearing, what I have found, just to throw out there a number, is about a 7% emotional body receptivity at this present moment to the impact of the clearing, which means that the emotional body only received about 7% of the benefit that the clearing that you listened to or participated in was meant to facilitate. So there's 93% of the benefit that has remained. It's in the spiritual level of your being. Right now it's in the spiritual bodies, but it hasn't yet penetrated to a more noticeable level as fully as it could for some of the reasons that I've just suggested, that the emotional body may be in a state of fear, it may be trying to hold itself at a relative position of stability out of a sense of needing to be safe. So what can we do about that? Let's go back to the clearing work itself that I'm helping to facilitate is working on the causative dimensions, working on the dimensions from that the soul, the larger part of you, the soul or the spiritual body is holding on to. It's not necessarily as directly an emotional clearing, only from the perspective of that the roots of emotional imbalance that we have are often in our karmic bodies. I hope that wasn't too complicated to try to say that. So it's the same thing. I do a lot of clearing work on physical disease or the origins, the karma that is causing physical health problems. People feel that at different levels, different degrees. We're focusing on the roots that are within the soul's history, within the ancestral history, the past life history, that are causing the present life challenges. But in order to feel a change in the levels of pain or intensity of the symptoms, the person has to be receptive at the physical level and even beyond that, also at the emotional level, in order to notice those changes. If there is total holding, say the physical challenge that someone's having, physical health challenge is largely caused by trauma, unresolved emotional trauma or physical trauma, that person will still need to work through the appropriate levels of their own conscious work, working through that trauma in order to allow the impact of the karma clearing work to really be noticeable to them. The karma clearing work for anyone who participates is still working, it's still happening at those spiritual layers, but it may not always penetrate to our day-to-day symptoms or day-to-day operating system, physical, emotional, mental selves, until we're ready to allow that to come in. Now, part of the mechanism that we get to a point where we can actually allow it is the karma clearing work itself. So some people feel sort of drawn to the karma clearing work. They don't always know why. They're not always noticing, as some of you have said, they're not always noticing an immediate impact, but there's something that they're noticing. They may not be able to put their finger on. Maybe they're sensing the spiritual resolution, the healing, the uplift that's happening. They're not sensing changes immediately in their symptoms or in their conditions in life, but they are feeling something. And by staying with it over time, that karmic burden begins to get lighter and lighter and lighter as the past life stuff begins to resolve. Many of us are carrying a lot of trauma from past lives. As that begins to resolve, what eventually begins to happen is that the physical, the emotional, the day-to-day aura, the operating system, our personality begins to feel like, hey, from a karmic perspective, things are safer for me to begin to heal, to begin to take courageous steps in my own path of manifestation or healing or whatever the challenge is. And as we begin to do that, the issues begin to heal, begin to resolve more. Someone who is dealing with something traumatic may need to work with a counselor, may need to work with a body-based system or a therapist or practitioner who can help release the impact that the trauma is having in their physical body, in their emotional body. That may need to be an important conscious step that someone takes. That step may only be able to be taken by someone after a certain amount of their karma has been resolved and the person feels sufficiently empowered to be able to make those steps. So it's the conscious work that we do influences the possibilities of the karmic work, and the karmic work that we do influences the possibilities of the conscious work. It is yin and yang. The more we empower ourselves to do conscious work in our own lives, the more the karmic work is able to have a positive effect. And the more that we do the karmic work, the more that we're able to be sufficiently empowered to do the conscious work. So there's probably literally days or weeks of teaching that we could do on this particular subject of how present choices, let me just sort of summarize, take what I just said into a smaller package. Present choices that we're making, day-to-day choices that we're making now, are a different form of energy than the karmic origins or causes of our life right now, or of our life conditions. The karmic causes could be considered to be the yin, the extreme yin, and their day-to-day choices could be considered yang. They're both intertwined all the time. They're both affecting each other. So we both need to be working on, we all need to be working on both ends of the spectrum in order to really have a holistic and balanced approach to healing our lives. I know this from my own perspective, and I've seen a lot of people get stuck on one extreme or the other. People who do karmic clearing work, say they're facilitators of various modalities, they often will think in a kind of an imbalanced way, well, I just need to keep clearing this issue. I need to keep clearing it. I need to keep clearing it. I need to keep clearing it. They will do hundreds of clearings on a particular issue, and they may not see much of a change. I've seen that dozens of times in various practitioners. And it's not to say the clearing work itself is bad or wrong. It's just that it's an imbalanced approach. They're focusing only on that yin energy, that causative energy, but they may not be focusing on what is the choice I need to be making right now? What do I need to do? How do I need to act? How do I need to be courageous in taking a positive action step to change something within myself or to take a positive action? For instance, I give this example a lot, we could be doing clearing work on health challenges or on diet issues or whatever. We could be doing clearing work around that a lot. However, we still need to choose day to day, meal to meal, what am I going to eat today? What am I not going to eat today? Am I taking that just on the level of diet? Am I taking that positive choice of what I will eat all the factors that go into what I'm going to eat and what I'm not going to eat, my self-empowerment, my self-love, my courage, my alignment with that I have the empowerment and the choice to be able to select what am I going to put in my mouth. This day-to-day ongoing choice is an important part of our healing process when it comes to perhaps health issues. Nobody can do that for us. Nobody can just clear around that issue and leave us with, well, I'm just going to eat junk food all day long and pretend that that doesn't matter. So you see how those ends of the spectrum, just on that one issue, it's a very obvious issue, those ends of the spectrum, clearing work versus how our personal choices impact our day-to-day life, how those things work with each other, and how one extreme or the other, if we do clearing work around courage, around personal empowerment, around, this is a huge thing for me, we do a lot of clearings around self-punishment. Why are my actions, why are what I'm doing in my life contradicting directly what I say that I want? Why am I doing things for the express purpose of sabotaging myself in my life? We all have tendencies sometimes like that. That work can hugely benefit from clearing the karma of self-punishment, self-sabotage, all of the inheritance that we have received from our ancestors about I don't feel empowered to be able to get the things that I want in my life. I don't feel like I have a choice. I feel like I just have to do what everyone else has told me to do, what my parents told me to do, what my religion told me to do, what my teachers told me to do. All of this stuff is very, very amenable to clearing work, where we work with the subconscious, we work with the karmic roots. So to get to another question that was asked in this thread, are the clearings that I'm facilitating working on the unconscious mind, or are they helping us to bring awareness to an issue or to remove a specific energetic signature of a wound from our aura? So yes, they are working on the unconscious or the subconscious. They are working to clear at that level. Are they helping us to bring an awareness to a specific area? Yes, they're also helping to do that. Because remember, when we bring awareness to an issue, it's our act of using our conscious mind and conscious energy in this moment to expand, to develop wisdom, to develop the power to enhance and expand our capacity for choice in life. How am I going to use my time? How am I going to eat? How am I going to use my mind and my thinking? How am I going to balance this day in terms of rest and rejuvenation versus action and extending my energy into the world? All of these things are issues of conscious mastery. The clearing work can help us with that, but ultimately we are the ones who choose. Are they removing an energetic signature from a specific wound from our aura? Well, I'll say, as I said earlier, the aura isn't our first and direct focus in the sense of the energetic layers around our physical body. That the aura does get affected by our work, but we're working more expandedly and more deeply within the history of the soul, and that does affect our aura. So Reiki work or more immediate energy work may primarily focus on the aura. Our work tends to focus more on consciousness, and that consciousness creates our aura. Clearing a wound from my life. How can you ask a question, Elena here, how can I tell that I have cleared a wound from my life? Well, in short, I'll say that you will just know. You'll just know. There isn't necessarily a way that anyone external to you needs to or should tell you. You will have an insight, you'll have an awareness of that factor that was getting me down for so long is no longer there. It's no longer a part of my journey, or it's greatly reduced and you're still in your process of healing. Even though I use the word clearing a lot in my work, I use it because people understand what I'm talking about, but I don't talk necessarily about clearing a wound from our life. What I look at it as is we have connected a certain thought, a certain belief, a certain past action that we have done or that has been done to us. We've connected it with a certain amount of pain within ourselves. Psychic pain, emotional pain, reactive pain. We didn't know how to process it at the time. We suppress that pain perhaps. And so that's become what you might call a woundedness in our life. That woundedness, most wounds or challenges that we have in this life have many past life roots to them. So what I look at is that we're not necessarily going to get rid of or clear that wound away. We're not going to delete it. Some people in clearing work use the term, I'm going to delete this part of my consciousness, or I'm going to, expunge it, or whatever it is. I don't quite look at it like that. I look at more like we're alchemizing. We're taking what is the pain, we're composting it, like the Buddhists say. We're taking the current energy that we're holding as pain, and we're working with that to transmute it into insight, into wisdom, into flow. The Taoists say that we can hold our energy in our body as tension, or we can hold it as flow. And so if we begin to, it's not so much that we clear tension out of our body if we stretch or if we move. What we're really doing is we're opening up, we're undoing, we're releasing the cause of the tension in the first place, and we're transmuting that into energy that is now flow. We haven't gotten rid of the tension so much as we have transformed the energy. So we're, even with this work, but I would say probably all forms of energy work in general, and really psychology, we're transmuting energy, we're composting it, we're alchemizing it. How will we know if we have cleared something or transmuted it in our life? We will just know. Sometimes we've made progress on it, but the issue will come back, or we'll see new layers of it later, and that means that it's something we need to keep focusing on. There can be one last thing I will say here is that the challenges, especially the very deep challenges that we have in our life, are the deeper the challenge, probably the more karmic material there is that has gone into that. I have facilitated many clearings over the years on what we call intractable karma, very difficult karma. These are often clearings that we do that are associated with the planet Saturn. So the deeper the issue, the more long-term the issue. It's often the larger amount of past life issues and ancestral issues that are going into creating that challenge. And so often the more consistent we need to be with clearing, the longer term the healing process could be for us. But it doesn't mean that we won't make any progress along the way. We can make immediate changes in consciousness, immediate progress, and there still may be more for us to do over time. So I know this has been a very long way, a roundabout way of getting to what I want to say about sensing clearing work. Sensing clearing work, we may or may not always sense it the same way as anyone else. One way of increasing sensitivity is by listening to a clearing multiple times. And I always encourage that in the recordings. Some people listen to clearing recordings every day, or they even put them on at night while they sleep. Sometimes that can wear down some of our resistance patterns, make us more receptive to the work. That's one strategy. The karma is what's creating our resistance in the first place. And so by listening to the karma clearings, we can often become more receptive. That being said, sometimes there's difficult pain in our past that we need to work with in a unique way for us to help our body and mind and emotions to understand it is safe for me to heal. It is safe for me to let go. It's safe for me to open up. I've done karma clearing works on these issues of safety over the years as well, because that's such a critical issue in our healing process, especially for dealing with a physical disease issue. For the body to feel safe and feel like it's okay to heal, to release, that can take karma clearing work to do that, and it can also take conscious work on our part to create an environment where our nervous system, our body, our minds feel really safe. So, any questions you have about what I've said here, I encourage you to post questions, comments below. I hope that something I've said here has been useful, and you'll continue to work with the karma clearings to lighten your load, to lighten your burden. You will find out your own unique path as you do that with your own process and listening to your own insights. And as you take that positive inspired action yourself, you will find that everything will work together better. So friends, thank you so much for watching this video.